that as part of it. It is? How long or how short? Minute? 2 minutes? All right. All right. Good evening, everybody. All right, I'm Reb Benson. I'm the new Cliff. So as president of the Property Owners Association. So what I want to do is we're going to sort of go with our normal format, but I'll talk a little bit about what we'll do after that. But we'd like to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance and then a moment of silence for our first responders and our military. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, thank you very much. Everyone have a seat. So our format tonight is, since this is our first meeting for this year, we had the elections before, but we're going to have an invocation of the officers and the board of directors into the POA. So we'll be doing that. Then we're going to go over a little bit about some activity, some things going on within the villages, and then that we want to get you about and what POA things we've got coming up to and some of our future meetings. And then we'll go into our speaker for tonight. So without further ado, I'd like to turn it over to Len Hathaway to let Len come on up here. And as he's coming up, what I'm going to do is have each board of director give a little bit of background so you know who they are and what their position is going to be. And then Len's going to do this invocation here. So again, I'm Reb Benson. I've been with the Property Owners Association since 2019. As secretary and board of director before that and whatnot. My background is I come from retired military, lieutenant colonel in the Air Force, and then a GS-15 for the Air Force for another 11 years. So mine's been missile and space operations and international arms control agreements and things like that. Does it fit well with Property Owners Association? Well, let's just say it fits well enough to help manage and work things. And I was also our president of our Homeowners Association back in Virginia when we lived there for about 20 years. And to me, the Property Owners Association is more like support that homeowners associations like in Virginia did, not sort of what the HOA part of the villages does here. So that's my background. Let me turn it over to our next person here.
Thanks, Reb. I'm Dan Warren. I've been on the board, I think, going on 4 years now. I'm from Wisconsin. I have a civil engineering degree from the University of Wisconsin. I also have an MBA in finance. I also spent most of my career in land development, and I have built projects like the villages. Not nearly the size, but it's got all the components. So that gives me a pretty unique insight into what the developer thinks and how he implements projects like this. So that's been very valuable. So I came here full-time in 2014. I am an elected official for NSCUD, which is the utility for all of the properties south of 466 all the way to 44. And that's the utility that governs sewer, water, trash, and irrigation. It's a 7-person board. I'm also, and you're going to hear a little more about this tonight, chairman of the Architecture Review Board. And I also serve as vice president of the POA. So I pick my poison. But when I get involved, I'm in all the way. So the POA is a great organization. It's the only organization I think you know that focuses on the rights of you, the citizens. Okay? Thank you.
Go next.
Hi, guys. I think most of you know me. My name is Cliff Weiner. I've been president of the POA for the past 10 years. I've been on the board since 2012. I moved to the Villages in 2002. I'm from Cleveland, Ohio. I'm a retired electrician. I'm the chairman of the District 4 Board of Supervisors, and I'm also the chairman of the Multimodal Path Discussion Group, which, by the way, has a meeting tomorrow at 2 o'clock at Savannah Center. So if you're interested in safety on the multimodal paths, please show up and let us hear what you have to say. I've spent years trying to get this group formed so that we can do something to make those paths safer. So I need your support. Thank you.
Right.
By the way, I'm temporarily going to be treasurer until they can find one.
All right, next.
Hi, good evening. I'm Gary Cato. Moved here 21 years ago. I was a banker for 20 years. Spent about 30 years with the federal government. Started off as the head of HUD in New York State. Wound up in Washington, by the grace of God, I guess. And there I served as Deputy Assistant Secretary for HUD. Later, I served as Executive Assistant to two presidents, both George W. Bush and also Bill Clinton. So I got a little bit of background in government. I came here, as I said, 21 years ago to retire with my lovely wife. And since that time, I've become chairman of the board for District 5. Those of you in District 5, I'm the guy you talk to. I'm also involved with a lot of Masonic groups down here. And my sideline is I'm also an Episcopal priest and a chaplain, served in the United States Air Force. So that's it. Pretty boring life.
Good evening. Welcome to the POA. My name is Tita Dumagsa. I like to introduce myself usually by saying that I am a Filipino by birth, but an American by choice. So I've been in this country since 1964. I consider it my home now. My background has been in the field of dietetics, but I had a very varied career. I had been a restaurateur, and I ended up my working years as an executive HR, Human Resources Executive of United Airlines. I was also the past president of the United Airlines Retirees Group in the area. I have been with the POA since 2017, going 9 years now, and the portfolio that I had handled were the following. I handled advertising, the discount partners, if many of you remember that, although it's now extinct, and I also was responsible for recruiting volunteers. Now, the reason why I am very much involved in the POA is because I feel that this country has given so much to me, and it is a very good way of giving back for all the good things that I have enjoyed. So it is a way of giving back, and I find it really meaningful work because it does have an impact on the lives of the residents of the villages. So I'm very honored to serve in the POA, and I hope many of you might consider getting involved with the POA, especially as members of the board of directors or board members. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Tita. All right, Gary?
That's a tough act to follow. My name is Gary Search. I've been in the villages for the last 18 years. I moved down here from Pennsylvania, where I spent 36 years in education. I got the ability to work on all three levels of education, which is very interesting. I also am a crisis intervention instructor, and I also ran many workshops on how to relieve stress. I thought coming down here would do that, but then I got involved. Anyway, POA has been a very, very helpful organization, as I found over the years, for people. And bringing up issues that sometimes could be painful, but yet helpful at the same time. So I'm just proud to be part of the POA board and look forward to many years of great help to the residents.
Okay, and got Karen here.
I'm Karen O'Farrell. I am only married to an Irishman. I am not Irish. I come from Indiana. I was born, raised, lived my entire adult life in Indiana. I graduated from Ball State University. I worked 35 years in healthcare in a hospital setting. I really enjoyed that. I think it was, part of it was the work and part of it was the contribution that as a staff member I could make to people's well-being. My husband and I moved to the village of Piedmont 8 years ago. I have always been interested in local government and community issues, and we started going to the POA meetings, which kind of filled that little void in my life to begin with. The POA taught us a lot about the villages and its structure. It also made us aware to remain aware of what's going on around us. I joined the POA 6 years ago, and I have been involved in various volunteer activities. You will find me tomorrow, God willing, at the Multimodal Path Discussion Group. I attend my own District 4 monthly supervisors meetings. I go to the Amenity Authority Committee meetings monthly. So my interest in local government has been a huge part of my life, and the POA, by being a board member, has given me another opportunity to expand and stretch myself, as well as continue to learn about the community I live in and support the residents who live there.
Great. Thanks, Karen. And one other board member that we have that isn't here tonight, he's on his way, making his way back down here. He's up in Ohio sometime during the summertime and whatnot, but he had some other medical issues he had to take care of up there. But he'll be coming down here. Ken Nodal is his name. These were the people that you voted on to the board back in November, and he's been with the board for about 4 years or so, and he's the one that we have working the website and all of our technology and things like that. And he lives in the Palo Alto Village and has provided a lot of good support to us associated with that. So that's your board right now that you have, and now you've gotten a little bit of an idea of what each face is and what they do associated with it. So at this point, Len, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Okay, thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for coming tonight and to participate in this forum. The POA remains committed now, as it did in 1975 when it started, to be that independent and objective voice in championing the rights of villages' residents. As part of the introduction, which you've just heard, I will be asking the officers and board of directors to stand before you to affirm 5 basic principles of the POA. So, is everybody here? Karen? Okay, the first one is the mission of the Property Owners Association is to hold the developer and local government accountable and advocate on behalf of the residents of the villages. Will you work towards these missions? Yeah. Number 2, the vision of the Property Owners Association is to champion the rights of residents of the villages, bringing attention to and acting on issues that may impact property values and the quality of life. Will you work towards this vision? Thank you. Number 3, the core values of the Property Owners Association are independence, honesty, objectivity, respect, and fairness. Will you work towards upholding these values? Thank you. Number 4, the Property Owners Association provides a forum for discussion of issues, conducting research and analysis, and being a conduit for objective and accurate information on programs of interest to village residents. Will you work towards maintaining this capability? Thank you. 5 and last, the Property Owners Association is guided by its charter and bylaws. Will you honor these documents? Okay, thank you. We will, with the ceremony now completed, you are now officially installed as officers and Board of Directors of the Property Owners Association for the calendar year 2026. And ladies and gentlemen, you've heard the great backgrounds of these folks that are working on your behalf. Please give them a round of applause.
Len has been doing this for us for a number of years, so I really appreciate Len doing that. And everyone, your checks are being sorry, Mike. I know we've made you have to keep moving the camera here to catch us when we're down the line here. So as you can see, we're obviously live streaming here, and it's got so much of a view right here. But trying to get everybody in, we had to put them in the manual work on moving that camera and whatnot. Okay, so as you heard, right, we got going on with everything associated with it, and you heard the statements that we live by and that we're all going to be honoring. Those are ones that are truly important to making sure that we protect the rights of you all as citizens of the villages and of your property and that. I want to say we always have some organizations present. So we have Bob from Seniors versus Crime back there, and then we have James and Nanette from Executive Realty back there too. So feel free to talk with them afterwards about anything that they can provide you any information on related to what goes on there. Want also to know that as coming in your new board here, including obviously myself as the president, we're looking at some initiatives and some new ideas. I'm looking at an organizational structure associated with the board that we go to like a committee kind of set up within our structure and create an advisory committee and whatnot. So as we start to work through those processes and put that into play, you'll be hearing more about that either in the magazine that we put out on a monthly basis, now electronically only, or you'll be hearing about that at membership meetings. And as Tita pointed out, we will be defining some of those positions associated with those committees that we're looking to help people like yourselves fill and help us keep pushing the things that we have to push accordingly from the POA standpoint that we're looking at. All know about the shredding event that we're coming up on July 1st. Okay, I want to make sure you were listening to me. No, on March 21st. So watch for everything going on with that. Make sure that you've gotten your email in saying you're looking to get a ticket, and that obviously you are current with your dues through March 21st. We have in the back of the room various items that you can check out between the Violet for Life. We got a POA fan. We got a POA bag back there. So different things that you can get more information on back in the back of the room associated with that. We've talked about a lot in the past, so just say if you want to stop in there as you stop in to see some others. And with that also in mind is if you have any specific questions or whatnot, then please try and see a board of director, or we do have sometimes some supervisors in the room. As you said, some of us are supervisors anyways along here. Some of us are on amenity authority committee. So you can see where your board is tied into the districts and the other activities that go on here that have a supervisory nature to it. So you can, if you got a specific question, you can see us after the meeting and we can try and cover that with you. As far as upcoming meetings, in February, we're going to have Bruce Brown here, the Assistant District Manager, and he's going to talk about the automated water metering reading program, something that NSCAD put together, and Dan had a big part in making sure that came together, so we get more information related to that. March 17th here, we will have Cheryl Chestnut come back again and give us an annual update on what's going on with the Spanish Plains Hospital and everything that they're putting into play there and whatnot. I'm sure some of you have seen the mobile stroke unit that they got going around. So I see they've got that in working now and going around the community and taking care of. In April, we have 2 meetings. The first one is Bingo is back. We had to cancel it in January because of some other unforeseen circumstances. But we do look like we got it set up to be able to do that on April 2nd down at Everglades. The doors are open at 6:30, and then we'll start running that event at 7 o'clock. You must have a village ID with it. But there'll be more information on that in the magazine. The big thing you have to do is, like, you had to register, had to send an email in to get a shredding ticket, you'll have to send an email in. It will be at poabingo1@gmail.com to be able to get into it. That event, like the shredding event, that's capped at about 1,000 or so, that event is capped at 235 people. So once you see that information in the magazine or on Facebook or whatnot, please respond to it as soon as you can to get you registered to be able to be part of that bingo night on the 2nd of April. And then a little bit later in April, on the 21st, right now we're looking at, we don't have it nailed down yet, I don't think, as Covanta, so we're still working on it. We have it nailed down? Okay, so we'll have Covanta on April 21st in here. We had them one other time down at Everglades, and they went through the whole program, what they do as far as taking all of our material to take care of it down there at their facility. Yeah. Right. And then on May 19th, we're looking to see if we can get someone from the Sumter County office to talk about hurricane preparedness. So that's basically what we got going on associated with that. So this time what I'd like to do is turn it over to our speaker and then let him go over what he's got. And that's going to be Matt Armstrong right over here. He's the District Community Standards, and he's going to give us a little presentation on that. Matt, thanks. I can use the mic right here.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you for having me. Thank you to POA for having me this evening to talk about community standards. We do have a presentation. Let's see if it'll jump on. So community standards, while we wait for the presentation to come up, community standards is made up of 2 divisions. I'm a department of 16. We have decompliance, and we have the architectural review teams that make up the community standards department. So this evening I'll start with our architectural review team. How many of you, by a show of hands, have gone through the architectural review process before? So about half the room. How many of you since December, when we now are online? A couple hands. All right. So we still have 2 ways where you can submit applications. We have our paper application process. Hopefully we'll begin to phase into the fully automated system, but we do have an online system now where you can submit your architectural review applications. So the Architectural Review Committee reviews applications for external modifications to your property. These external modifications can range from various different things. We have 2 types of entities that will review your application. If you are in districts 1 through 5, 7 through 10, or the Lady Lake County portion of the villages, you will be your applications will be seen by the Architectural Review Committee, which are made up of volunteers that represent those districts. Dan Warren being one of them. He is our chair of the Architectural Review Committee. And they administratively will review the architectural review manuals that your Board of Supervisors have adopted for the external appearance of your homes. And as long as those applications are within the guidelines within your architectural review application, and as well as your deed restrictions, they will approve those applications. I would say majority of them are approvals. Very few denials here and there. Maybe a couple times they'll need to table something for more information. But for the most part, they approve these applications. We work with you very closely, staff does, to help you along the way when you have questions with your application to get it to the point where it's reviewed by the committee, including any missing information. We want to make sure that we have complete packets that will reach them. If you are in District 6, 11 through 15, and I don't think there's anybody from Middleton in the room tonight, but 6 and 11 through 15, that is seen by an architectural review hearing officer. He is a licensed engineer, and those districts do pay for those services from the engineer. Same concept. He reviews the application solely on the architectural review manual and the deed restrictions to ensure the compliance with those manuals. They will not approve anything based on personal preference. It's either it's allowed or it's not allowed. If it is allowed, you get your stamp of approval and you can start your project. Applications are good for 9 months. So various projects may take place, maybe a simple landscaping project, or you may want to put a pool in. We're not going to try to create all these different timelines. So it's one application, 9-month approval, and then if you need to, you can always submit for another approval. If it's absolutely necessary, you can get a secondary application approved. Yes, sir. So submission of a question was, where do you submit the application? The application can be submitted to our offices. We have 2 locations, one at the Lake Sumter Landing and one at Brownwood, our main office at the Brownwood Town Square, or at the Lake Sumter Landing office. You can drop it in your amenity box without any postage because the couriers will come and they'll pick it up. You can email us on the application. It actually has an email that you can email us the application as well. You can mail it to us if you would like to, or you can, like I said, drop it in person. So various ways to where you can get it to us. So, would you like to attend your meeting to see your application? Absolutely. It is open to the public. These are all public meetings, and it's always good to attend the meetings if you can, because if there are questions, then the Architectural Review Committee can actually ask you the question in real time. You can get an answer for those questions, and then your application can move along the process. If for a reason that you're not there, or there's something where it leaves for interpretation or it's ambiguous, that's typically when you see, we're going to deny this for more information. This wasn't really clear as to what you were expecting. I see that there isn't dimensions to the property line over here, and there's a setback requirement. We can't guess based on your drawing what that means. So they'll deny something along those lines. But for the most part, you guys provide all the great information, and we get that through. On average, about 300 applications a week. Last year, fiscal year, October 24, 25, we had just about 13,000 applications processed for external modifications to your properties. So a great job in getting them turned in and seeking architectural approval for those types of modifications. So briefly, I kind of touched on this. Architectural rule approval is by external modifications. The districts had people say, well, where do you get the authority to have an architectural review committee? It's actually in your deed restrictions. It says that the approval process will be by the developer or an architectural review committee that is appointed. And when it transfers from the developer to the Board of Supervisors, when it comes to the architectural review process, it is done through the committee process. All right, so what are some of the things that we're looking for on the application? This is important stuff. First one is your tax bill, a current tax bill, deed, or the property record card. We just need a copy of it, do not need the original. Reason being, how many of you have a rental property here in the Villages? How many of you want your renter submitting architectural review applications to change your property? I doubt you do. So this ensures that we are only approving the applications of the actual homeowner that's submitting that information. Also a site plan. If you're planning on doing any type of external modification where you're adding something to your property, we're going to want to see where your setbacks are. And that's typically on your site plan. It's going to show where the setbacks are so that you aren't putting something in any easement, such as, for example, a flagpole. Last thing you want to do is put a flagpole in an easement where there's utilities. And then we have one of our very famous afternoon thunderstorms, and zap, there goes everyone's utilities down the line. That did happen before, by the way. So we just want to make sure that we're not putting things where they're not supposed to be. In setbacks, in road right-of-ways, you're not supposed to modify anything in your front road right-of-way. So make sure that you're behind that road right-of-way in your front yard. And then also, we want to see if you're doing building additions, those elevation drawings. The county typically likes to see that the architectural review process, or the city of Wildwood, as an example, likes to see the architectural review process is complete. You've received ARC approval, and then they end up processing your application for those building additions, pool additions, things like that on your property. So that comes to the next slide. The Architectural Review Committee approves your application based on the aesthetics of your architectural review manual and what's in your deed restrictions. You still need to go to the county or the city in which you reside if you're going to be doing like a building addition, or you need building permits. If you're going to be laying concrete, you most likely are going to need to get a building permit for that type of project. If you need a flagpole over 12 feet tall, I believe Sumter County also requires that you receive a permit. So always double check with the city or county in which you reside to ensure that you didn't need a permit from that jurisdiction as well to continue on with that project. I can tell you, like little landscaping projects where you're going to add a little landscape border and add flowers, you don't need a permit for that. But you need to put in that pool, you're going to need to pull a permit with the city or county in which you reside as well. Which then takes us to our next topic of deed compliance. So what is the deed compliance process? Deed compliance within community standards is we can enforce the external rules that are in your deed restrictions that are adopted by your Board of Supervisors. So a deed restriction, or your covenants and restrictions, as you may hear them as well, is a contract between you and the declarant or the developer on what are how you're going to maintain your property, how you're going to keep your property beautiful, the rules that establish how the property can be maintained, different things along those lines. If your house is accidentally struck by lightning and a little bit of it, the garage burns or whatever it is, I have to start the rebuilding process within so much time. If I want to add a building addition, I'm going to get that architectural approval, things along those lines. Within Florida Statute 190, that is our governing documents, our governing set of rules. It says that a community development district, when they enforce the rules, can only do the things that affect the external use and appearance. So that's why we can't work with if somebody's operating a business from inside of the house. So if somebody has, for an example, a hair salon, and they have guests coming over to have their hair done on a routine basis, and you have a great clientele going in and out in your neighbor's house. That's an internal deed restriction violation. That's inside the house. So who can enforce that? You as the neighbor or the homeowner next to them, or the developer can. If you call community standards and it's an internal violation, what we're going to do is we're going to say thank you. We'll take it and send it to the developer's representative who we have, and they will handle it from there. If it affects the external use and appearance, so if they're running a golf cart chop shop, repair shop on their front driveway, and they have 3 golf carts torn apart, and they're advertising, we repair golf carts, come on over here. That is actually against your deed restrictions, against the external uses of your property, where it says you will not operate a business from your home site, and that's something that we can address. So those are the external things that we can take a look at. You modify the exterior of your home. That's external deed restrictions. You haven't cut your grass in 3 weeks, and it's now 4 foot tall. That's an external use and appearance. So those are the types of things that we can enforce. So what are the most common types of complaints or concerns that we receive? Not exaggerating, 5 times greater than any complaint received is the appearance of your lot or home. That is tall grass and weeds, algae, mold growth on the property, your hedges are in the eaves of your house, you have palm fronds laying all over your yard if you have palm trees, things along those lines. The external appearance of a home, 5 times greater than any other complaint received. And we provide statistics to our Board of Supervisors, and it's always number 1 is typically in the 100 range, and the next one is like 20. It truly is. So if you are a seasonal resident, I always say make sure that you're following up with the landscapers if you're not here. If you're a regular resident year-round, those are typically the types of concerns or calls that we get hand over fist. Sometimes we'll get the signage, especially during political season. 2026 is here. We have some elections coming up. I know we're all proud of our candidates. Signs are not permitted. The only signs that are permitted is a for sale or for rent sign in your front window, unless you're in District 1 where they choose not to enforce that particular rule. So, no signs allowed. And then external projects without architectural approval. But like I said, 13,000 applications almost last year. So you guys do a great job in getting those ARC applications in. So how can you provide a concern to community standards? You can call our office. You can mail us. You can submit it in our decompliance inbox. On the district website, there is a reported deed violation button. It's green. If you click it, it'll take you to an online app form. You can fill it out, and you can send it in to us. Now, each Board of Supervisors decides how they would like concerns received particular to their district. So not all districts are the same. So as a case in point, District 4, I see some District 4 representatives here today. They have elected through the election process, through the Board of Supervisors process that says we only want residents of District 4 to be able to submit concerns within our district, but we still want people to be anonymous. So what they've done is they've required that you provide your unit number, because a unit is unique to a district. There is not a duplicated unit number throughout all of the villages. So I know that M44 starts from Marion County. There's only one district with the M in it. That's a District 4. So I understand immediately that's Marion County. And if you provide a unit number, your unit number, that says I am in M46, I know that you are also a resident of District 4, and then we will accept the concern and move forward. So if you're in District 12, as an example, they do not allow for anonymous concerns, and you must be a resident of the district. So you provide your entire contact information. We verify you're a resident of that district before we ever move forward with a concern. So if you're interested in wanting to know what's specific to your district, I have them all memorized. You can ask me after the meeting. I don't want to have to worry about rambling them all off up here today, because there's 16 districts. So All right, so procedures for compliance. We need to give everybody due process is what we say. So if we get a concern, and I'm going to use the tall grass and weeds as an example. You have tall grass and you have weeds in your landscaping bed. What we'll do is we'll make first contact with you and we'll say, hey, we received a concern. You have really tall grass and weeds. Can you please remedy the situation? If you say, yep, no, I'm getting a new landscaper. I wasn't pleased with the previous one. The next one's going to be able to start in 2 weeks. We can give you about 5 days. We'll come back in 5 days, give or take, because we don't want to say, okay, in 2 weeks and go, you know what, I didn't like that one. I got another one starting in 2 weeks. No, I didn't like that one either. I'm going to do another one at 2. And you're just leading us down the road. And that's this never-ending road of I'm going to get a landscaper, but you haven't. So what we do is, okay, in about 5 days, we're going to come back and we're going to check on things. And if it's not fixed, we're going to write what we call a notice of violation. And we come back, still tall grass and weeds. It's even taller now. And so we give you a note of violation. We call it a DR notice. And you get a DR. And we say, here's the violation. Here's the rule that it violates. And we're asking you to please remedy the situation. That starts the clock, is what we say. It starts our clock. From there, you will receive a series of letters. We come back and we return to the property over a period of time. It's usually about a 4 to 6 week window of time, because what we're doing is we're taking it to the point where it's going to go before either the Board of Supervisors or the deed compliance hearing officer, who is a retired Lake County judge, Judge Neal. And you will go before your Board of Supervisors or this retired judge, and you will then have to state why your property is out of compliance. We have worked with you from a 4 to 6 week kind of a window, giving you as much time as in that window to bring the property into compliance. We're working with the Board of Supervisors, also schedule when they meet on a monthly basis as well. And if it gets to that point, we have sent pictures, we have sent letters, we have communicated with you, and it's still out of compliance. At that point in time, the discussion is between you and your Board of Supervisors or Judge Neal, in which you're going to have to explain why you have not selected a landscaper, why the lawn has not been cut, why the weeds have not been taken care of. And at that time, they may enter into what we call an order of enforcement that says you have 7 days to get that grass cut. If not, I'm going to charge the district and their landscaper that they've hired to come in and cut it for you. And for landscaping, it's $250. Would you rather pay the landscaper $100 or pay the district $250? And which also a lien will be placed on your property to collect said fines. So at that time, we will then mark our calendars for a week after the order of enforcement's been signed. So we come back out. Most of the time, grass has been cut. Or if it hasn't been cut, we will come back out and we will cut the lawn, and then we will put the fine on the property and we'll place a lien on the property. And that is the decompliance process. For the individual who files the concern, it always seems like it's way too much time. For the person that has the complaint received against them, it's never enough time. It's a balance in between both worlds. But we're still allowing the opportunity to give that person, that individual, that due process to correct the situation, to correct what the issue may be, to the point where it goes before the Board of Supervisors, who then you are also, hey, I need additional time. For example, my house was struck by lightning and I lost half my house. A lot of times the deed restrictions would say you have typically around 8 months to rebuild the property back to its original condition. For some folks, that's not going to be enough time to get through probably the insurance process, to get through getting the trusses, the things like that. So the Board of Supervisors may have that conversation with you and go, hey, what is your lead time? What does it look like? How much time are you looking at? I need an additional 4 months. I need additional 3 months. I need 6 months. Whatever that conversation is. And then the board will say, okay, we'll give you 3 months, 4 months, 6 months, whatever it is that you guys kind of worked out. And the order of enforcement is entered at that time for that time being. As long as you're providing updates and communication with the board as how the things are going, how the process is working with the staff and community standards, we can provide updates to the board and how the process is going. So if you ever need to come back to the board and say, I need 1 more month, great. But if you don't do anything for that 6 month period and you just sat on your hands and you didn't produce any work and you just kind of abandoned the house, then we have an order of enforcement to where we can then issue the fines and try to move some things along. So that's what that's all about. So with that, I will be here to help answer any questions you may have about the architectural review process or the decompliance process, and I will turn this back over.
All right. Thanks, Matt. So at this time, well, if anyone has some specific questions they'd like to ask Matt, we'd like to take care of that right now. All we ask is that we have 2 mics going here, because since we are, as you mentioned, live streaming this and video recording it, we want to be able to catch the question via the mic. So we got a first one for you, Matt, right down in front here.
Your comment about no political signs surprised me, because as I do my walking around the villages, I see lots of houses with lots of political signs. So how do you navigate that?
So if anyone calls in the property and says, I have a concern that someone has political signs in their front yard, or any sign, doesn't matter the content, it's any sign. If you contact our office and provide the address, we will go out there and have a conversation with the homeowner and let them know that those types of, any sign is not permitted and that they'll need to remove the sign.
We have a house in our neighborhood that apparently, well, it's a rental. And so they constantly are having different groups of people who do not respect that this is a retirement community. Is that within your purview, or is there anything we can do about these people? Because, anyway, that's the question.
Yeah. So when it comes to rental properties, that's regulated through the state. We do not have any jurisdiction or legal power to do any type of enforcement when it comes to rentals. And it is also not within the deed restrictions that prohibits. So there's nothing that I have the legal authority or power to do.
Does the restriction on signs also extend to flags, political flags?
We are contract neutral when it comes to flags. If you receive architectural approval for that flagpole that will not exceed 20 feet in height, you can fly whichever flag that you want.
Can we have an alarm system sign in the yard?
You are permitted to have security sign, yes, sir, in your yard. There's a few when it comes to the standards. So there's another document called the standards within your districts, where Florida Statute 190 allows for a district board of supervisors to define maybe some ambiguous terms. So as an example, it says you must keep your lot neat and clean and the grass cut and edged at all times. Well, what is a neat and clean height? The Board of Supervisors, through an adoption process, what we call standards definitions or standards, says neat and clean is 8 inches tall. We're going to set it at like an 8-inch height. So anything that's above getting around a foot tall, we're going to call that overgrown. So when it comes to, I'm sorry, what was the particular alarm system? Thank you. There's a few signs that they allow. So like the ADT, the Vivint, the home security signs. We have some folks that may have medical concerns, and they have like the decal stickers that they have on signs in the front flower beds to allow first responders, if they ever come onto the house, to know, hey, they're on oxygen, or hey, there's this particular thing that they need to be worried about. Then those are the things that are typically defined within the standards that they look for, and that's one of the couple of things that they've allowed.
I have 2 questions. Where does the village stand on metal? Where does the village stand on metal roofs?
So metal roofs are permitted. It just depends on how the deed restrictions establishes it. So for an example, in districts 1 through 4, it says you're supposed to have a shingled or tile roof. Well, they make metal shingles. So you can do that. It starts in about district, I believe, halfway through 5 or district 6, where it doesn't specifically state in the deed restrictions that it has to be shingle. It just says you need architectural approval for the major modification. So you have many districts, and it's in the architectural review manual, where you can have the stand-in seam roofs.
District 10.
District 10 Board of Supervisors elected that they did not think it was aesthetically pleasing, and they did not allow that within the architectural review manual. But you can still have metal roofs. It should just be a different style, metal shingle type roof.
Okay. Second question is, the governor signed some kind of bill that AstroTurf is allowed. Where does the village stand on that?
So synthetic turf or artificial turf, yes, in the summer a legislative piece of legislation was passed, but it says that the Department of Environmental Protections, the DEP, is required to establish the regulations behind it, and they have not done that yet. So we're sitting and waiting for the DEP to come out with those regulations. I'm constantly monitoring their website to see where things are. It's still in draft mode. I know they had a workshop in November. They asked for updates in December on that workshop information, and nothing's come out since then. So we are actively sitting and waiting and seeing how the DEP is going to.
Will it be possible on your standard?
Again, until the DEP comes out with any form of regulation on it, I don't really have an answer for how things will be established. We'll work with the supervisors within each of the number of districts. We'll work with their legal counsel because, again, you're talking about Florida legislation and enacting that particular set rules. So it's going to be a little bit, but once they've come out with something, then we'll work with the community on how that will work out.
I have a couple of questions. The first question is, when a house is resold, a pre-owned house is resold, the deed restrictions are not formally read to the person that's buying the house. They get a paper, they sign it, they sign 1 million papers at a closing. They do not know what the deed restrictions are. How does that get enforced? I mean, if I'm a neighbor and I see a deed restriction and I mention it to my neighbor, and he doesn't do anything, do I have to make a formal complaint or an anonymous complaint?
So it depends on the district you live in, how the complaint can be.
5.
So District 5 does not allow for anonymous concerns, and you must reside within the district, so you would have to provide your contact information, and we would verify that you are a resident of District 5. That is one way where you can contact community standards, and we can go out there to have that conversation. But again, also you as a homeowner and as someone who signed the deed restrictions yourself, you also could take it up as a civil issue if you wanted to as well.
But why doesn't the real estate company at the time of the closing disclose the deed restrictions?
I do not have any purview over any realty company, so I don't have an answer for that one.
Does someone answer that question? I have another question.
Well, I'll be back. Let's make sure. For every one of my listings and every one of my buyers that purchases a home, I go to districtgov.org and I print out every page there is on the architectural review, on the deed restrictions, and that is all bound and given to one's left at the home for my listings. The other one is given to my buyers in the inspection time frame, so that if there's any questions, they need to address those at that time.
That's what he does. But that's not what all real estate agents do. Because I contacted real estate agents that work for the Villages Management Company, and they just have the applicants sign, and it's never really explained in detail. I'm glad that he does it. My second concern is I live in a villa, Eagle Ridge Villas. Villas are privately owned by the developer.
No, sir.
The streets, yes, this is what I'm told. Now, there's no parking, there's no overnight parking in the villas because the streets are narrow and because of a hazard for emergency vehicles. Nobody enforces it. You don't enforce it. Police department does not come into private roads. How does that get enforced?
So it depends on who owns the road. The Villages does not own the roadways. The district government may own the roadways, but the Villages in District 5 does not own the roadways.
I was told the developer owns the roads in that villa.
No, sir. No, sir. That your number district may own some of the villa roadways, and that's where when you have your maintenance assessments, they talk about the villa roadways and the maintenance behind them and the 5-year capital improvement plan projects and things like that. That's through your district board of supervisors. I can only enforce how the deed restrictions are written. So unless it specifically says no vehicular parking on the street, there's no rule for me to enforce. Now, I do know it says no trucks in excess of 3/4 ton recreational vehicles, RVs, boats, and aviation aircraft are not permitted. But and in some of them it'll say private non-commercial vehicles only. So if you have a commercial vehicle parked on the premises, that would be a violation. But if someone parks their Ford Focus on the road, I don't have any standings to enforce it because there isn't a rule there that would prohibit a personal vehicle like that.
Well, Who enforces it? The sheriff's department does not enforce it.
So that would be a question for when it comes to the ordinance for the county. So you're in District 5, Sumter County. I know if it's blocking a fire hydrant, if it is within so many feet of a stop sign, that would be something for law enforcement to address.
You're right.
But as far as how the deed restriction is written, like I just spouted off, it's written in a way that there's things that aren't permitted and some things that are, and that's just one of those things that if it's your personal vehicle, there's no violation.
This is a concern because it is an emergency concern. It's a concern that if people park in the street and it's not supposed to be parked in and the street is narrow, emergency vehicles cannot get through or perform. It only takes seconds for someone to pass away, prohibiting an emergency vehicle to get to his house. Sheriff's Department says they have no right, and you say you have no, it's not a deed restriction, so the Board of Assessors says there is no parking in that villa. But all I want to know is who enforces it.
Okay. You're from District 5? Okay, I'm chairman of the board for District 5, so you're one of my people. We've had several things take place that we've been able to handle, such as parking. You mentioned that if they obstruct in any way on the road or park across from each other, the rules are you cannot obstruct in the event of an emergency vehicle, such as a fire truck, which are pretty sizable. If you park in that street and you're blocking, or someone parks across from you and there is an emergency, you can pretty much kiss your car goodbye because that truck is going through no matter what, even if they have to push those out of the way. So in that case, if it is a total obstruction that obstructs emergency vehicles, you can indeed call the sheriff's department, and they will come out and they will ask them to move those cars. I've done it probably 100 or more times. So if someone tells you that's not up to us, we don't have to do that, that's not the truth. If they're blocking the road, they do have to come out and enforce the law. Let me just finish on another topic here too. The other thing that you talked about, and this gentleman I think brought it up, one of the things we dealt with for a long time is renting out properties. Bed and breakfast, we've all heard about bed and breakfast. I would estimate right now there's probably over 250 bed and breakfast operating within the villages, maybe more. There's a huge company in Miami that you can just call. You pays your money, they give a box and put it on your house, key in the number, and whoever rents it can just go in day or night. I had that happen in my own area. So what we ended up doing at this point is people would rent the house, 2 people, and then the following day 12 other people would come down and stay. And they would party all night long. And speakers would be blaring. We have a noise ordinance too. So in my particular case, I had, and I won't tell you where I am, but I had a doctor who got the property and just rented it out all the time. People coming in at 3 a.m. in the morning, 4 a.m. in the morning, kids yelling and screaming. It got a little bit excessive. So we actually met with him and we talked with him and said, this is unacceptable. If anything happens and there's going to be a fine for a noise ordinance violation, you're going to get it, not the renters. And it changed pretty quickly. So you still have rights, even though we can't formally enforce some of these things. But if you talk to law enforcement, if you have something that is you consider egregious, I would also come back and talk to your supervisors. Your District 5, I'll give you my number when we're done. It's a direct line. And I'd be more than happy to meet with you and talk with you. But we should not have to be subject to those kind of things. We own our properties. We take good care of them. We follow the rules. Having people coming in just to raise hell for 2 weeks, totally unacceptable. So there are ways that you can work around that, and eventually they get the message. Now things have calmed down. Everything is fine again. We also talked about, and I know you mentioned, different rules for different districts. We're a district in District 5 where we did away with anonymous complaints. We did that for a reason. People were starting to use the complaint system to get even with neighbors. Somebody ticked them off, so they'd look and they'd say, oh, you know that 6-foot rabbit over there next to the tree, that's illegal, and they would call it in. And they'd use it almost like a weaponization of things on your front lawn. Happened all the time. So we got away from anonymous complaints. You heard the stories about people riding around with a clipboard. We had some people, and I know Matt knows this too, because we go back a lot of years in this. We have not accepted anonymous complaints for 5 years now. It has worked out extremely well. People are talking to their neighbors, and they're reasoning, and they're working things out.
It was predicted. I got a phone call after we did that, and they said, you're a damn fool. People are going to be shooting each other. They're going to be punching each other out on the front lawn. District 5 is going to turn into an absolute ghetto. And this was from another supervisor in a different district. And I said, you're wrong. And they were wrong. District 5, you live there. It's pretty well taken care of. We don't tolerate a whole lot. And yet we don't accept anonymous complaints. So it's worked out well. The only thing we're still working on is the rentals and the B&Bs. That is very, very tough, and it's hard for Matt too, because there's no clear enforcement on that. That's something the developer would have to take into account. And there was an attempt to regulate that up in Tallahassee, and it got all the way through to the end where we could have had some reasonable regulations on that, where if you violated something, you could get a $1,000 fine. The last minute, that got overturned and legislation turned it down. So I don't know who got to who, but I was in that business long enough in my life that if you got enough money and enough juice, you can change just about anything. And that's probably what happened. But you still have rights. You own that house, you bought it, that's your property. If somebody's raising hell, let us know. We'll work with you anytime to make sure that's corrected. Okay? Thank you.
Just to redirect to decompliance here. With this load of cases being processed through, am I right in saying that when someone comes with a request, that the staff works with that person to iron out any deficiencies there are, so that by the time it gets to the ARC, all the boxes have been checked, pretty much?
For the architectural review process? Yes, sir. We do our best when it comes to pre-screening the application as much as possible. If it's missing information, we'll let you know, hey, you need that site plan, or hey, you're missing this type of information, so that when it gets to the architectural review committee, they're ready, they're locked and loaded, and they're like, okay, everything's here. Let's take a look at the merits of the project. Is it in accordance with the manual? Yes, it is. Good to go, approved. If for any reason that it is missing that information, we'll let the committee know. And that's usually a quick denial, saying until we get the information that was requested, we're gonna move on from this application.
Okay. And one other thought occurred to me by another questioner. If there is a grant of some variation from the standard, let's say the house color is picked, or the color tile on the roof. All right, that's granted. Now, a new homeowner buys the property, and they want to redo the siding or redo the roof in the exact same color. Do they need to get another request before the ARC, or can they presume that this is valid the way it is on the house? That is, does it carry with the property, or is it just for the homeowner? And the next time you do something, request it again.
If you receive architectural approval, if a homeowner receives architectural approval for the property, then it's good, and if it transfers ownership. If you want to change what was existing from that original approval, then you would need to submit for architectural approval. So if it's a light green house and you want to change it to a grayish color, then you're going to want architectural approval. Basic touch-up maintenance does not need ARC approval for it. If you're going to change the roof, then you're going to need architectural approval. Depending on your district, each district kind of says, okay, yes, we want to see architectural approval for this project. No, we're not going to worry about it for this project. So we would take a look specifically at the manual for that district to see what their requirement is.
Oh, okay, thank you. Oh, I assume that your staff keeps track of the grants for a given property, so you have a long view of that, what happened.
I don't by grant, but yes,
Well,
we keep we keep all the applications as public record.
Yeah.
That we
Now,
do
all
have,
the approved
yes.
applications
Yes.
for a given property. There's a record of them for that property.
Yes.
All right. Thank you.
If they've ever been submitted, as far as let me rephrase that. We have it to the point where we kind of started the architectural review process pre-2009. Florida statute had everything underneath the developer as control over the decompliance process and architectural review. So if your home is like 2010 and older, there's a great likelihood I'm not going to have any like modification documentation for anything that's much older. But oftentimes, a lot of folks have made changes since then to a property, and we have those applications on file. And if we don't have the physical paper form, at least we have something that documents whether or not it was approved or denied.
Yes, I have a neighbor that has a bottleneck bush that is now growing up to the eaves. They call it a tree. What are you going to do about that?
So a bottle brush can be a bush or a tree. It depends on how it is maintained. So if it truly is a tree, then they have a tree. If it is a bush because they don't have a stem and it's just a big bushy, big ball of bottle brush, then we would treat it as a shrub or a bush, and then we would say it needed to be cut back out of the eaves of the property. But if all of a sudden he does like a poodle and just shaves it all the way up, and then you got a big puffball at the top, then he has a tree now.
Diseased trees and in danger of falling, is that an issue?
A tree danger of falling?
Yes. Diseased trees that are in danger of falling.
So Florida statute about 4 years ago, I think it was, changed where it says if a tree poses a risk to person or property, a homeowner can remove said tree with a certified arborist report or landscape engineer report. So that's where the district actually modified the enforcement rules and says we will no longer require you needing architectural approval for a tree that has a diameter of greater than 4 inches. So we no longer need architectural approval. District 5 did take a different stance where they said we want to see that certified report before you do any type of tree removal. And so you need to produce that if we ever did get a complaint that you removed a tree. But I can tell you now that typically when an arborist is the one company that have arborists on staff and they have certified arborists and landscape engineers, and they have documentation that the tree posed a risk, and they can remove that tree. So if somebody doesn't want to remove a tree, I'm not certified as an arborist to say that that tree is truly dying or dead. Now, if it's a palm tree and it's missing its top and it's just a stick, then that's an easy one for me. But if it is truly a tree, I would have no way of knowing if it's truly dying or not dying. And we would contact the homeowner saying, hey, we received this concern. You know, what is the tree's condition? How is it looking? What have you done for it? And we'll see if we can work out some type of amicable resolution to it. If it's totally dead, they can absolutely take it down. Yes, sir.
How many districts allow anonymous complaints?
Pop quiz. All right.
I didn't ask you specifically because I thought that would be much of a challenge, but roughly.
Lady Lake County allows for anonymous. District 1 allows for anonymous. District 2 does not allow for anonymous. You must reside within the district. District 3 does not allow anonymous, but you can live in any district. District 4 allows for anonymous, but you can only live in District 4. District 5, District 6 do not allow for anonymous. You must be a resident within that district. District 7 allows for anonymous, but you're only allowed to submit one complaint per method of communication, which means you can only, for example, you call me and say, hey, I've got a property concern. You go, okay, thank you very much. I got a second property. I'm sorry, but you're going to need to call back later. I'm only allowed to take one complaint at a time. They hang up. They call me back. Is that good? Yes, sir. All right, what's the property? District 8 allows for anonymous. District 9 allows for anonymous. You must reside within that district. District 10 allows for anonymous. District 11 allows for anonymous. 12 and 13 do not allow for anonymous. You must be residents of those independent districts to file concerns. 14, you can be anonymous, but you must reside within the district. 15 and Middleton are under the purview of the developer, and they allow for anonymous. Woo! Can
you repeat that?
Who's next?
I guess I am. Does the homeowner get a copy of the approval for his own records?
Yes.
Okay, so he does that.
Yes. So now that we have gone to an online system, even the paper copies we receive, we will put them in on the digital online format. We do it with your email that you provide. So when you do register your account, the application should be there, and you'll have an electronic history of any applications from as of December 1st that should be within your profile as long as your email is addressed with it.
Hi, District 1. We have a neighbor who drives a commercial van. He parks it half on the driveway, half in the grass, has destroyed the lawn. He puts his golf cart sideways in his rock garden and has 2 other cars in the driveway. I have called numerous times. What I've been told is they haven't seen it because he's there at night and he's there on the weekends. and they said, we cannot help you. Why is that?
So again, is that a villa or is it a home? So a home, there are no restrictions against commercial vehicles in homes. It's just it's trucks in excess of 3/4 tons, recreational vehicles, and boats. So, and there also, I don't believe there is any violation for parking on your lawn. Now, if you kill your lawn, then it becomes a violation for neat and clean, but there isn't a violation for actually parking on the lawn. Again, street parking, if it's a regular vehicle parked there that's not the 3/4 ton, the truck, then there is no violation for us to enforce. If they are not there, if they do the evening hours, so this brings up a great point. If there is a concern, for example, that is late night hours when I don't have staff that are roaming in at night to look at violations, or if it's on a weekend time where someone continuously, like for example, brings a recreational vehicle, an RV, and parks it in their driveway. As a courtesy for RVs, the Board of Supervisors have said, we'll give you up to 72 hours to clean it, wash it, and you need to take it to your storage facility. If someone breaks the spirit of that courtesy, but they typically are doing it on weekends and they're bringing it every weekend, if you as a homeowner actually provide us a date time stamped picture, we can actually use that as evidence towards that concern. Just note that it becomes public record. And so I'd have to state where the information came from as far as a form of public record, but you can provide us that documentation if necessary. Mm-hmm.
All right, I know we've had a full range. You got one, Ian?
Yeah. I would just like to highlight a couple of things that Matt brought up. I've had the pleasure of serving on the Architecture Review Board for 8 or 9 years. I've lost track. And you're probably wondering, having heard all of this, how you might want to be a member of the Architecture Review Board.
Yes.
Well, the reality is, and the Architecture Review Board is District 10 and all the numbered districts to the north. And your supervisors ask for volunteers. And each district, I live in District 9, Gilchrist area, the supervisors are responsible for identifying the primary representative and a secondary representative. And from time to time, right, Matt, we have vacancies that occur in various districts. District 1 has a vacancy. District 2, District 4, District 5, and District 8, District 10. So there's quite a few. And it's not a big time commitment. It's every Wednesday morning, and we spend 2 to 2.5 hours. And we deal with about 120 applications every Wednesday morning. But a lot of those are roofs, and we're able to consolidate those. That helps us be a lot more efficient. So again, having heard all of the good stuff here, and you might be interested, that's how it happens, okay? A couple of other things that I would just like to point out. The vast majority of the applications that we deal with that become problematic have to do with encroachment in easements that surround your property. And most of the buildings, pools, major structures, those contractors almost invariably know what those standards are. Because with the improvements that they're putting in, there's a lot of money involved, and they don't want to make a mistake, okay? On the other hand, landscaping is the one where we often find problems. I will say, this is my personal opinion, that better than half of all of the landscaping that you see in the villages has never filed an application for architecture review. Okay? Couple of things to keep in mind. Landscaping, as an example, if you don't have edging, has to be 2 feet away from all property lines. If you put edging in of any kind, it's got to be 3 feet away. That's a standard that we often see violated when an application comes in. Here's another misnomer that can be very problematic. Many people think that your property line, and all of these measurements are from the property line, your front property line is not the back of curb, even though your grass goes all the way out there. In many areas, and it varies, like Matt said, each district is a little different, each lot is a little different, but on balance, from the back of curb, 13.5 feet into your front property line, into your front lot, is your front property line. And for landscaping, you have to be another 2 feet or 3 feet beyond that. Okay? She said it's in the house. Maybe south of 44 it is, different setbacks. But that's something that oftentimes most folks that don't deal with this, and that's the majority of our residents, don't understand that that's the street right-of-way. That's part of the street, even though it is your lawn that you have to maintain, okay? One other thing, when in doubt, call community standards. I can tell you, I've worked with the staff, as I said, 7 or 8 years. They're extremely knowledgeable. They are most willing to help. And sometimes just a phone call, you call them up and say, hey, this is the kind of improvement I'm looking at making. Does it require architecture review? Okay? And if it does, can I come in and show you what I want to do? And they'll take you by the hand, walk you through the process, and put you in a position so that when the application comes to architecture review, it'll sail right through. The last thing that I would want to point out, and we run into this often, is that the current property owner is responsible for maintaining your property in compliance with the standards, the current standards. So if you bought a house and something was non-compliant, and somebody calls in and says this is non-compliant, and community standards comes out and says you're right, this landscaping is too close to the front, you as the current property owner are responsible for correcting that violation. Whether you think it's fair or not, that's a standard that we have to live with. And we see that more times than not when folks come in front of architecture review and say, hey, it was this way when I bought the house. So that's another very important requirement, let's say, that you are responsible for maintaining the property. Matt, thanks a lot. Enjoy working with you.
Thanks, Dan.
Okay. All right. Gary, you want one final?
Just a couple of real quick things. We talked before about anonymous complaints. Somebody asked me the question, as a result of that, how did that go down with the residents? In 5 years, I've only received 2 complaints for doing away with anonymous complaints. One of them was a lady that called and said a gentleman called her and said, I understand you complained about me. You gave them your name, and I know where you live. Well, within 15 minutes, a sheriff's car was over there explaining how handcuffs worked. And it turned out the guy was a police officer for 27 years. He apologized, and it ended that. The second one was a lovely lady, I believe she was 84 years old, who wrote me a scathing letter for doing away with anonymous complaints. And her problem was that the neighbor that she had already filed almost 30 complaints on invites her to dinner every week, and now I've prevented that. It goes all over the board, folks. It's a lot of fun. Anybody here from District 5 who has any questions? I'm going to hang around afterwards if you want to talk.
All right. Thanks, Gary, and thanks, Dan, for the paid advertising there you had associated with it as the chairman of the Architecture Review Committee. Everyone, let's give a round of applause for Matt for providing an excellent presentation, and and for your full knowledge of anonymous and non-anonymous in each district. Thanks again, Matt. All right, well, you can see there's a whole lot of discussion that goes along with that, and then the bottom line is, if you have any questions, please call them associated with that. Matt will be here, as I said. We have district supervisors, or you got an architecture chairman right here, so you can talk to them afterwards. We look forward to seeing you next month here when we'll talk about the automatic meter reading from Bruce Brown, and we have donuts in the back for you here. And again, great turnout. Thanks for being here tonight.